Good evening, and welcome to another episode of Politically Unscripted. As promised on last week's episode of The First Branch, I want to talk a little bit more about why I believe that the Republican Party, and very specifically, I am going to talk about Senator Ted Cruz and my own representative, Roger Williams, here in the great state of Texas. And I believe that this is a tremendous state. I love that it embraces conservative values. But my fear is that our representation is no longer for the original intent of those conservative values. And I've got evidence right here to prove it. And that's what I want to talk about. Just a real quick episode. I'm not going to belabor the point. I've been very vocal about how I feel concerning the direction the Republican Party is headed as it pertains to conservative values in America. So I've already shared that with several episodes. If you want, you can go back and watch those. This episode, I want to show you the evidence. I have been reaching out to Roger Williams' office since the first week of January when he was sworn into office. And ever since then, I have been trying to engage his office in sharing the legislation that we have been publishing that is trying to reverse the trends of socialism in America. I am no fan of socialism. I despise it as a way of governance. And I'm doing all I can from this platform to try to stop, or not just stop, but to reverse those socialist trends that are being pushed by the liberal leftists. I'm not going to hide that. That's what this channel is about. And I've been trying to reach out to Roger Williams to do that. He has just ignored me. That's basically what it amounts to. Twice a week, I try to engage his office, whether it be through email or through social media accounts, and he's just failed to respond. I've done the same thing with Senator Cruz's office, and I began with his office the first week of February. And with him, again, twice a week, I try to engage his office on trying to show him that there are people, that his constituents, conservatives, that are taking this very, very seriously. And I don't think that he is, because he's not responding. And what's frustrating is that we have viewers of this channel that are in liberal states that are getting greater responses from their liberal leadership than we are getting as living here as in a conservative state. We have a viewer that is in the state of New Mexico, one of the most liberal states in our union. It's got to be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 liberal state. And this conservative viewer, she has sent several pieces of legislation to her representative as well as her senator from the state of New Mexico. And she has gotten a response from every one of the pieces of legislation that she sent. And her representation has sent her specific lettered responses. That means they responded to that piece of legislation that she sent. These are not generic, hey, we'll get back to you when we're too busy. This is an automatic generated response. These are specific to the pieces that they all disagree. They expressed their disagreement with those pieces of legislation, but they took the time first to read it, because they reference several specific pieces in that legislation, that proposed legislation, in their letters. They took the time to read it, and then they took the time to respond. I am a conservative, publishing conservative legislation sent to conservative representation, and I can't even get them to send me a basic response. Hey, read your email. We'll get to it when we get to it. It's not even happening. Over 800,000 liberal Californians have flooded into the state of Texas in the last 2 years. Over 800,000. That's 800,000 new voters, Senator Cruz. That's 800,000 new voters, Roger Williams. I don't know how many of those actually ended up in District 25. That's a statement for Roger Williams. I don't know how many, but I do know that it's increasing. I know that here in the city of Killeen, in the city of Copper's Cove and Harker Heights, and several other cities that are in the District of Texas 25, they're growing. So that means more people are entering. And if these are the same people that are coming from California, I guarantee you they're not coming to vote conservatively. And so you conservatives, ignoring conservative people, your conservative constituents, is only going to serve to hurt the conservative movement here in the state of Texas. And if we lose the state of Texas, We lose the ability to have a greater conservative influence in this country. Because I promise you this right now, Ted Cruz, I promise you this, I will not be, unless you begin to start taking us seriously, I am not voting for you in 2025. You have lost my vote. Because I am serious about the conservative movement, and you have not taken me seriously. Same with Roger Williams. 2022 is coming up. You start your election cycle in about 7 months. And I promise you, again, unless you start taking me seriously, you've lost my vote. You have. Why? Because Democrats in Democrat states are responding to conservative legislation, and conservative leadership in conservative states are not responding to their conservative constituency. I have a right to be angry. Again, I'm going to go back to original intent. Y'all know how I feel about it. 27 grievances written in the Declaration of Independence. 17 of them had to do directly with failure of the king to provide representation to the colonists. And because of that, we started a whole other country. And here we have conservative representation in this state failing to take conservative constituency seriously. All right, that's my venting. I'm done venting. You all know how I feel about it, but I wanted to show evidence. I wanted to show you these are letters from liberal, leftist politicians responding to their conservative constituency. I give them credit for that. I give them credit for having the courage to read the legislation and then send a rebuttal. That's civil discourse. The right is just, here in the state of Texas, the right is just ignoring that process. And they're saying, I'm too big for you, Mr. McMurray. Your channel's not big enough for me to care about yet. I'm going to disagree with you, because 800,000 new Californians entering this state. It's been such an influx. They haven't even drawn the congressional districts for the upcoming election. Do you want to know why? Because they're trying to gerrymander the state in favor of the Republicans because they don't want to lose it. Well, how about you respond to your Republican constituency first? Do that. Do the basic things. Do the fundamental things first. And then maybe those other things will fall into place. But ignoring a conservative constituency base in a conservative state, while the trends we see happening is that this state's moving left. Remember, it wasn't too long ago, this was a Democrat state. This state was once heavily Democrat. It ain't going to be hard to switch it back, especially given now, with the influx of Californians that tend to vote more liberal. This channel has a voice. This channel has a voice for conservative, Christian, morally based laws, and you have ignored us. And with the trends that are happening in California, my vote is going to matter more than you think it does. You think you've got job security. It's not as secure as it used to be. Not here in Texas. And you're not accounting for that. That's clear, because you won't even respond to conservative requests. You're too busy doing Hollywood interviews. We have a right to know why you're issuing term limits. I have a right to ask you because I disagree with it. I have a right to ask you why you think only building a wall is going to fix the problem when we have a 14th Amendment that gives the federal government power to determine immigration. Why aren't you answering those questions? I've sent them to you. I've been given no response. I'm entitled to one. The last I checked, when I went to a job, the boss was the one that paid me. We pay your salary. I know you don't like hearing it. I don't care if you don't like hearing it. That's the truth. Taxpayers pay your salary. I'm a taxpayer. I pay your salary. The person who pays the other person is the boss of that person getting paid. And if I went to work and my boss sent me an email and that demanded a response and I didn't respond, and I did that over and over and over and over again, I get fired. So guess what's going to happen? Since I've done this over and over and over again, you've lost my vote unless this changes. So again, I'm going to ask you not one last time. I'm going to keep pestering you because you're still my representative. And I'm still your constituent. And so until that relationship changes, which it might for Senator Ted Cruz 2025, it's possible it could change. For Roger Williams 2022, man, it's coming up quick. You may be out of a job because you've lost my vote unless you change your behavior. I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to sit down and answer questions. I'm asking you that, hey, here's a guy that has some ideas, and why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you taking me seriously? Why aren't you taking this movement seriously? We have a platform. My goal is to use it to influence the conservative movement, not a political party's agenda. So again, I'm going to ask both Roger Williams and Senator Ted Cruz. It's an open invitation to come to this channel. Sit at this desk and let's talk about these laws that you're coming up with. Let's talk about the laws that the proposals I've sent to your offices. They're good proposals. They'll fix problems. Why aren't you listening? The math is there. The science is there. Everything is based on the science and math of natural law. These aren't just whimsical ideas that I've pulled out of my backside. These are well thought out, well rehearsed, well versed, proposed pieces of conservative legislation that are tied to the moral foundation of biblical Christian principles. And I want to know why you're ignoring them. So come on this show. Here's your invitation. Once again, come on this show. We're in Killeen, Texas. We're smack dab in the heart of hill country. We're in the middle of the state. We're 3 hours away from your office, Senator Cruz. Give us a call. Shoot us an email. Email will be in the description below. Again, I'm gonna tag this and I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna post it on your Twitter pages. I'm gonna send it to your emails. You're gonna get this again. Do you have the courage to show up on the show and no softball? This isn't gonna be a Fox News interview. This is gonna be where everybody on Fox News loves you. It'll be a tough interview. Do you have the courage to jump in the ring and duel this out? Do you have the courage to sit at this desk and solve problems? Do you have that? I'm just asking. I have a right to ask that question. I'm one of your constituents in the state of Texas. Let's do this thing. Let's fix this. Let's start reversing the trends of socialist agendas here in America. That's all I'm asking. Have a great weekend, America, and God bless.